Okay. Great. Hi everyone. Hello, hi. Can everyone hear me? Good stuff. Hey John, hey Laura, nice to see you. How's everyone doing? Oh, so nice to see all those lovely familiar names popping up. Hope everybody's had a good week since last time. Hey Alice, so nice to see you. So good. Oh, it's so nice to see all of those lovely people joining. So yeah, I hope everyone's had a good day. Hope everyone's been enjoying the sunshine if you live near London. We have had some good weather, so yes, long may it continue. Okay, great. Everyone seems very excited. Yeah, it's going to be a really nice one this evening, and I learned a little bit from last week. I am not going to go over the hour slot, so don't worry. It will just be an hour long. You don't have to wait that long for your tea. And also, what I'm going to be doing now is saving the whole video as a post as opposed to a story, and so it will be accessible forever as opposed to just 24 hours. So it's all a learning curve for me as well, so thanks for bearing with me. Yeah, and thank you again to everyone who sent me your parrots from last week. They were all absolutely lush, and a lot of people were saying that they were a bit nervous about watercolours, but they managed to make something fantastic, so amazing. I'm delighted that happened, and it feels like we've got a real community here now. It feels like, you know, every Wednesday we sort of see the same people and hang out for a bit, so it's super nice. Hey Alice, how's it going? So that's been really lovely. So for those of you who are just joining, I'm just going to do a very short introduction, because I know I do this every week, but I do it just in case there are new people who are joining. So a very big welcome to you. My name is Jenny, and I run Wildlife Drawing. So I'm also an artist and an illustrator, but about 6 years ago now I set up Wildlife Drawing, which is a creative class. And basically what happens there is that we swap out the naked life model and we replace it with animals and nature. And the whole concept is to try and get people to have more of a compassion and a connection with nature and with animals, to learn a bit about them and draw from life, as well as raising money for lots of different animal and conservation charities. So we give 10% of our annual business profits back to charity. So really trying to use it as a force for good, and again, you know, sort of still doing that a little bit here, even though we're online now, but yeah, still being mindful of those animals that need our help. And so obviously, well, these classes have been so popular, and I've been absolutely overwhelmed, and because of that I'm going to release 3 more Wednesdays, and I'm going to give you a few details at the end of the class actually. So I'll tell you what's coming up, but I've tried to listen to many of your suggestions, so I'm really going to try and hope that everybody is pleased with the themes I've come up with, but also there will be scope for more. I think I'm going to continue doing these even after lockdown finishes. And so what I do have to tell you, if you might already know, is that we've got a not parrots, we did that last week, penguin drawing class, and that's actually going to be a bit different from this. It's going to be, instead of an Instagram live, it's going to be a sort of ticketed Zoom class where we're going to broadcast from right within the penguin colony at the London Aquarium. So we would have been doing that anyway, we would have been drawing them in real life, but we can't do that now, and so we'll be, the keepers will be there and be telling us about, you know, the fun penguins that are, like, you know, they're all real characters and they've all got like their own little groups and like sort of cliques going on, so they'll be amazing to draw. But also we would usually give 50% of the ticket price to the Sea Life Trust, but this time we're going to give it to the NHS charities together, the COVID-19 appeal. So 50% of your £10 ticket will go to them if you want to buy one. Okay, and so tonight it's all about miniature piglets, and oh my god, they are too cute. It's almost too cute. So we draw them a lot in, you know, when the classes are running, and they're just so popular and so adorable. I work a lot with a chap called Mark, and he runs Pet Piggies. So he's got a beautiful space out in the woodland in Woburn Forest, and that's where our piggies come in to be drawn from. Mark is an amazing man, so he's basically taught me everything I know about pigs, and so he has a sort of herd of pigs, and they breed as and when. There's no forced breeding at all, and obviously none of his pigs end up on anyone's dinner plates. They are bred as pets, but he is very, very responsible about who they go to, and so he does lots of home visits. He has to make sure that the family that the pig is going to is right. They have plenty of outdoor space and plenty of sort of stimulation and company, because as we'll be learning about later, piggies are super intelligent and they need a lot of love. And so yeah, as I mentioned before, so we usually support a well, actually Mark supports and I do as well a little bit. He works quite a lot with a non-profit organisation called Farms Not Factories. And Farms Not Factories do an amazing job. They campaign for better standards in the sort of pig farming industry, which we'll learn a little bit more about later. But Mark does a lot of educational work with them as well, with pigs, and sort of trying to kind of, change people's minds a little bit. So that's what we'll be learning about a little bit. So I had so much fun working in Pastels. To be very honest with you, it's not something I do very often, but I managed to create this, which I was really happy with, and I had so much fun. And so tonight we're going to be working from another one of Victoria Siddle's lovely images, this cutie one here. Oh my god, it's so cute. And so the materials I've got tonight are just like, well, this is the box. This is just like a very just very standard pack of pastels. I think they were maybe like £7 or something. Not very expensive. And then also I've got some of these charcoal pencils, so I'm just going to use those for the details. I also have I'm working on mid-tone paper, which I'll show you in a little while. But I actually really enjoyed the mid-tone paper. I didn't think I would, so I did start it on white paper, and it's absolutely fine if you do go for the white paper. But on the mid-tone, I just found like a lot of the colours popped a little bit more. But we'll see how we go. It's all good, regardless of what materials you have. Do not worry. But if you are working with pastels, I would say good idea to have a bit of a cloth next to you. This gets messy, and I would say if you're wearing like your nicest white top, maybe have a little bit of a change before we begin. But okay, last two things I'm going to say before we crack on. What are we on? Yeah, 5 past, that's perfect. The donations, if you would like to at the end, if you enjoyed the class and you're in a position to do so, you can just the little link is on there. It's the pinned comment. If you want to see less of the comments, you can just tap in the middle of the screen if you're on the phone or a tablet, and the comments will minimize, so you'll be able to see a little bit more. And also, this whole event is free, and anyone is welcome, regardless of age or ability level. Okay, let's just have a look at some comments here. So Victoria, thank you so much. Thank you for saying my drawing is beautiful. Okay, so is it Vic who can't see the pig in the image pack? So I actually, because Victoria Siddle, the photographer, she actually found a bunch more piggy images. So if you go into the link tree on the bio, it should be in the extra piggy images, which is right at the top. That's where the image is. So hopefully you can get it. So a lot of people can't finding it. Okay, so I uploaded it separately. So if you go back to the bio link, and if you go to, it's the very top one, I think it's called Extra Piggy Images, that's where it is. So hopefully everyone will get it. Hey Joe, nice to see you. So let me know, do holler up if you can't find it, but it should, I think there's only 4 and there's that extra pack, you'll be fine, you should find it real easy. So now what I'm gonna do is, first of all, just say, let's go. And get all your bits ready, and I'm going to transfer you over to the overhead shot. Just one sec. Okay. So, how is that looking for everyone? Maybe I should move some bits up a little bit. Everyone's got the reference photo, that's great. How is that looking? Good stuff. I can't really, I'll try and go a little bit closer, but that should be, is that okay for everyone? Good, we've got some thumbs up here, fantastic. Okay, great stuff. Right then, so what we're gonna begin with at the start is some white pastel first. So I'm just going to start with this. So pastels, actually, I've found that they're incredibly forgiving, and if you don't like a mark or something, then you can just kind of smudge that right out and it's absolutely no problem. So what I'm going to do is to start with is do a little circle for where the head is here. So I always like to put the sort of size of the head in first, because that then to me sort of denotes how big the rest of the image will be, and you can kind of really make sure you've got enough space on your page to get the whole composition in. And then what we're going to do is start with this spine line. So I'm going to start by drawing this line that runs all the way over the back of the piggy right to the tip of her tail. And so I'm just going to have a really good look at that angle there as well, and look at those curves, and just up and over the forehead, back down here, and round that little bottom there. And there's the tail. Oh, I made it a little bit more jaunty than I think it is, but that's okay. Cool. So what I would say is it's a really good it's good to get your proportions on point first before we crack on. So I worked out that the head goes into the body twice. So if you go 1, 2, 3, that's quite a good little measuring tool to figure everything out. So then what we're going to do is start to pick out some of those, another couple of circles. So the bottom here has got quite a nice little sort of circular area here. And then we've got this lovely big round oval for the belly. Just put that on top there. So we get that nice big oval for the belly. And then around here we've got sort of a little bit of muscle structure for that front leg there. So I'm going to pop a bit of that in. So should look like it's starting to kind of take a little bit of shape now. And so once we've got our 4 sort of circles here, we can start to join them up a little bit. And so just have a really good look at this outline, sort of start to follow it round about here. And then when you're coming down this way, so yeah, good idea to make sure in this section there is enough chin. Pigs have got a whole lot of chin, and so you want to make sure that there is enough space between that front leg, which is set back quite a bit, and the tip of the nose. So just make sure you've got enough space here and here for that to look right. And if you want to have a look at this line here, to make sure that's right, what we can do is use that good old clock face method again. So if you turn sort of this area here, so into a clock face, so maybe that point where the leg starts to come out, and just look at what time that line is. I think it's sort of about 10:30, so that's quite a good sort of angle to start up with here. So we start to join that up like this, and join up the belly here to the back. Okay, cool. How is everyone doing? Oh, yes. If you're using white paper, should you use a different colour to start? A very good point. So you can use any pale colour, basically. What I would say is something like a really pale yellow or a pale pink, just so you can see where everything is on the paper, but that it's easy to go over with a darker colour. Hope that's okay. Yeah, a lot of people asking that question. Hopefully that's a good enough answer. Just use a nice pale colour and you'll be able to, just so you can see your lines. Okay, now we're going to start with where the legs are. And with a pig and with a lot of hoofed animals, the legs at the front are very different to the legs at the back here. So you can see it's almost like a backwards knee. And what I would start to do with the front leg here, which is front legs are nice and straight and easy, but what you want to make sure is, again, if you've got enough of your chin here, start to think about where the legs would meet the shoulder blades. And so I think this lovely little piggy has got a nice little shoulder blade tuft there. So what we can do is sort of almost do a straight line down from that point on the spine line, and just that's going to be where that front leg is. Another thing to think about is how long your legs are going to be. So this little piggy has really stubby little legs, but I sort of worked it out that they are about the same length as the width of the body that's directly above them. So if you think width of body, length of leg, and then you can just make a little mark here just to where how long those legs should be. That's just a little bit helpful. And we can do that the same on the back as well. So sort of trotter to where the leg comes out of the body. It's about there. It's about the same. 1 and 2. Maybe a slightly less on that one, but you can just make sure that your legs are coming out to the right length. That is the ankle. Thank you, Madeline. Okay, so back on with these legs. So you don't need to worry too much about getting everything in the right place. These are sort of just our sketching lines. So what we're going to do is just make sure we've got our straight leg down here. And I think I need a bit more in the way of a chin there. Yeah, that's a bit better. And then with the second leg here, it's a really good idea to think about the anatomy underneath. So if you think we've got where the leg joins the pelvis is here, and then we've sort of got the knee joint where it leaves the body here, and then goes back to the ankle. Thank you, Madeline. And then we've got straight down to where the trotters are, almost like it's almost like a right angle. And so again, like we did with the wolves, just flesh those lines out a little bit. And there we go. Just make sure you've got a nice low hanging belly there. Not sure if mine needs to come back a little bit actually. That's better. So you can see how easy it is if you go wrong. You can just take a line out, no worries. Okay, I think that's about right. And then if you put in the second leg here, the one that's furthest away from you, what is always key is if you're drawing an animal from this side, from profile view, the legs furthest away from you will always be slightly shorter. Not in real life, of course, but it's just perspective. So that's really good. It's always good to do that because it makes the pigs look like they are firmly planted on the ground. So that's where the second one is. And then you can't really see the second leg on this side. We'll just sort of put a hint of it where it is. Okay, so now if we go back to the face. So I always think the little snout of the piggy is so difficult, but what's really key to getting it right is that sort of little upturned button that you get. It's like a little milk top really, and so that little sort of upturny bit here is so key. And also, aside from the nose, you can't really see a whole heap of the mouth and the eye, and sort of in line with the way I say, if you can't see it, don't draw it. If you can't see much of it, don't draw much of it. I think you can barely even see where the mouth is, but the mouth is actually, the mouth, the sort of top lip joins directly to the bottom of the nose, so the mouth is sort of about here, and you can't really see a lot of it. And so we've got a little bit more of a chin coming down there. And that's there. Yeah, that's about right. And so with the eye, I worked out that the nose to the eye is about the same length as the eye to the ear. So you can kind of work it out where everything is. So just make a little mark. Make sure your eye is not too high up. It's just almost equidistant to the middle of the nose there. So you can sort of just put a little mark where that is. And then the ear about here. And the ear is kind of completely engulfed by the rest of the body, so it doesn't stick out over the top. The other ear does a little bit. I actually think my eye needs to be a little bit closer, about there, I reckon. Okay. How are we doing? It's always good to take a little step back and have a little look. Yeah, not too bad. Not too bad for doing it live. That'll do for now, I think. How is everyone doing? Okay, we've got lots of love heart eyes. Everything is okay. Smashing. Amazing. Do shout a question at me if you have one, and I'll do my best to answer. Okay then. So the next thing we're going to do, as we've kind of just done a sort of nice loose outline with the white, I am going to move on to one of these charcoal pencils. So you can either, if you haven't got one, you can use a fine bit of charcoal, or you can use one of your pastels on really maybe like a sharpish edge. Anything will do, just so you can get a little bit more in the way of detail. So what we're going to do now is just pick out those details a little bit more. And I'm going to start again, like I always do, by using my pencil in the same direction as the fur is going. And so here we go. We're going to start to just firm up those lines. And again, you know, pastels, it's not like watercolor. Basically, if you have applied dark pastels to a certain area, you can go over them in white and lighter colors. So actually it doesn't matter. Also, if these lines are wrong and you're not sure about them, you can always go over them. Oh, everyone loves Piglets. Okay, if we've sketched it out in pencil, should we rub it out before pastels? So that's a tricky one. So that maybe I would have in future drawn it out with pastels, but sometimes the pastels don't actually, they're not very useful. So I would say rub it out a little bit, just so you've got a really faint line that you can still see, but it won't get in the way of your pastels. Your pastels should go over it, but yeah, just take it out slightly. If it's a really light line, it'll be absolutely fine. Okay, so I've done my sort of a little bit of an outline. So now what I'm going to start to do is just pick out the features just a little bit more. Just figuring out where everything should go. Again, not really going in with too much detail, but just slightly more than we did before, just so you make sure you have got everything in the right place. And so now, if we move on to the snout is the bit that is really quite tricky. It's very important that you get it right. So my advice would be to just look, and almost not look at this as a piggy snout. Look at it as just a shape on a sheet of paper or on your screen, and just go exactly for the shape that you're seeing. Don't try and make it look like a pig snout. So to me it looks like a sort of, I don't know, like a bit of bubble gum stuck to someone's shoe or something. So something like that. So sort of a bit wider at the bottom than it is at the top. And then we start to go into that little mouth here. Give it a little smiley face if you like. And then down with the chin. Again, back to those marks that show it's nice and furry. Just show a little bit of where that sort of chin, like that jawbone might be. How is everyone doing? Oh, someone's having a problem with sharpening the pastel pencils. Oh, to be very honest with you, I've actually never done it. But I reckon probably what would be better would be a craft knife as opposed to an actual sharpener. Sharpeners can, for softer stuff, it's actually, they can be quite harsh and break pencils, as you've found. Okay, cool. So I am starting to Again, like maybe just pick out the areas with my pastel pencil where the markings are, so you can just sort of lightly figure out where those blobs and bits are on the body. And then pick out the legs, just making sure you've got everything in the right place here. It's a nice way to just sort of cross-check all of your marks. And if you're not happy with any marks or you want to take out the circles, just give them a little rub and we'll blend them all in, and they'll be covered over anyway. So, oh, missed out the other ear there. Here we go. Cool. Okay, so now we're going to have a little look at the trotters. Trotters are really, really tricky. They're sort of walking on their tippy toes. So if this is the ankle, this is the sort of the length of their foot. So they walk on their tiptoes, and they actually look so delicate when they're kind of like little tippying around. But the trotter itself is split into two parts, like a sort of hoof, and then it has this kind of dew claw at the bottom here, at the back, so which is slightly higher. So when you're putting your trotters in at the bottom, it's a good idea to look at exactly what angle the trotters meet the ground at, but also to be mindful of the actual shape of the trotter itself. It's sort of a little bit rounded on the bottom. So this is what I mean. So here I can see, because this pig is sort of leaning quite lightly on this back foot, I can see that the trotters are kind of meeting the ground at not too acute an angle. And so I'm going to put that in, but I'm going to make sure they look rounded at the bottom like this. It's almost like a sort of little wedge of cheese with a rounded base. Hopefully that's making sense. And then the little next one just next to it there, and then you want to bring that line up and just add that little claw in at the back. Okay, yes, absolutely. The whole class will be available as an Instagram on IGTV afterwards. So don't worry, it'll be available forever if you haven't already had enough of me. Again, so this is a slightly different trotter here. So I'm looking at what angle it meets the floor at, and then getting that rounded edge at the bottom. And so it's starting to take shape a little bit more now. It's starting to really look like a little piggy. And we can start throwing some colours around very soon. Okay, again, we've got this line at the bottom. Just make sure your piggy feet are not too long, your legs are not too long. Again, looking at the angle at which that trotter meets the ground, making sure it lines up, and getting that rounded shape in, and there, that weird little, it might not be called a dew claw on a pig, that's what it's called on a dog. Who knows? If anyone knows, do let me know. Okay, cool. So now just, making sure I know where all of those little patches are. Cool. So at this point you can rub out any of the lines that you don't really want, but I wouldn't worry about it too much. You can always just go over them with a bit of colour. So now it's time to throw some colours around. First of all, is everyone okay? Yeah, absolutely. I'll put it on the replay, don't worry. You'll be able to see this at a later date if you need to. Okay, smashing. So what I'm going to do now is have a really good look at the colours that you've got here in this piggy. Obviously we've got black and there's sort of like an orangey beige, but if you look carefully there will be so many other colours in there. There'll be sort of whites and yellows and even more of a bright orange, and here in the tones of the black there'll be browns, there'll be greys. So pick your palette, and I did this earlier, and I sort of put all of the colours like in like a little sort of section, so I know what I'm working with. It just is quite satisfying for me to do that. Okay, cool. So the next thing I'm going to do is start with the lightest colour that is I can see in here. So for me, I think it's going to be a sort of a really pale yellow. So that's actually paler. So I'm going to start with this, and I'm going to look at all the places on the picture where this colour is present. And what I'm going to do is start to kind of map out these areas of colour. So I'm going to start applying the pastel to where I can see this colour. And don't worry, what we'll be doing is building up like a really lovely rich tone. So you can all just go for it is all I'm trying to say. We will be building this up, so don't be too worried that you won't be able to change or maneuver the colour around afterwards. We will absolutely be able to do that. That is the beauty of pastels. And the way that I'm doing this is I am starting to do it in the sort of same direction as the fur, but what I will start doing is using one of my fingers is to start blending the colour as I go. It is a good way to get like a nice sort of area of colour like this, but the blending will really start to come into its own when we add other colours to the mix. I don't actually know if this is exactly the right way to work with pastels. Maybe there isn't a particular right way, but I've never really been taught how to use them. So this is the way I was sort of doing it intuitively. Oops. But you can, I think, sort of pastels are such a nice loose medium that however you use them, if it feels good, then go with it. There is a lovely lady called Amanda who comes a lot to drawing classes, and she is such a whiz with the pastels. I wish I could kind of, maybe she's watching, I'm not sure, but she does absolutely wonderful things with pastels, and her blends are amazing. So I can't quite get her technique. I wish I had it, but anyway, that's just it's a good thing to know that there are lots of different techniques out there, I guess. So, as I'm going to start kind of building up these tones here, have we got any questions? Someone says a cotton bud is really useful when blending. It's actually a very good point. I got some blending sticks as well. I mean, I think I've just been getting messier than needed, possibly. Oh well, it's all good fun. So yeah, starting to just be quite liberal with the pastels here, and just building them up in the areas where I think they are. A little bit on the feet here. And then I will start with the second lightest colour, which is a little bit of a deeper yellow. And so what we're aiming for with these colours is to sort of build up a really beautiful, rich tone of colour. And you do that by basically just going at it for quite a while. But I think that the pastels work really well when you actually, the colour is so rich and so deep that you can't see the paper through it. And the beauty of pastels is that actually what we'll be doing is we can add white on top, so we can pick out all of those lovely highlights almost as the last thing that we do. So as I'm going to work into this guy here a little bit more, I think everyone is okay. Fantastic, lovely. So I'm going to tell you a few nice piggy facts while I'm doing this. Obviously, if you have a particular question, please do holler at me. I will be still checking the comments, but I'm going to go through some nice piggy facts for you because I've learned quite a lot from Mark actually, and pigs they're such a misunderstood animal. They really are. So first I'm going to start with some myth busting, I think. Oh, I'm just also going on to a nice little sort of pale pink here, just to kind of, again, get that lovely deep colour going. And I'm just working in the patches that are light at the moment, just to build it all up. So my first myth-busting piglet fact is that pigs, contrary to popular belief, are not fat. So wild pigs or naturally bred pigs, as in like the ones in the wild,
not the ones that are bred to be on our plates, are actually, they can't be fat, because in the wild they're a prey animal and they have to be able to escape really quickly. So they can't be fat in the wild, absolutely not. Otherwise they would, they would just be sort of sitting ducks, as it were. Also, pigs are not smelly. They actually are very, very clean animals. They're very conscious of being clean. They have no body odor to speak of, really. The reason why people think they are smelly is because of the conditions in where they're kept. And so they actually also, as well, they only poo and wee far away from where they sleep and where they spend their time. So they are actually incredibly clean animals. Okay, everyone's good. And then someone mentioned before on the comments about the pigs being pink. And actually, pink pigs are something that kind of humans have created, really. It's a bit of a sad situation, really, but pink pigs are bred actually to not have hair. All wild pigs will have a covering of hair, but the fact is it's easier to prepare pork for a plate if it is hairless. So actually they've been genetically bred to not have any hair, and they're the ones obviously that we see in farms and things. So that's quite interesting, really. They also don't have curly tails, but they do wag their tails when they're happy, which is absolutely adorable. So I'm at a point now where I'm kind of fairly happy with how the paler patches are sort of shaping up. Just sort of going around with my finger, just sort of blending them. Don't worry, you'll have oodles of time to do this, and you can build it up as much as you like. But what I'm going to do now to start with a bit of definition is starting with some darker colours. So I'm going to start with this nice dark pastel, which I don't think it's quite black, but it's a good idea, just to go a little bit gently with the black first, or the dark colour, and make sure you pay attention to the tones within the black as well. So there will be some grey, and there will be some areas where the black hair is sort of picking up the highlights and the lights. So just make sure you're quite sort of subtle, and you build up the colours as you go along. So pigs are, absolutely gorgeous animals, and I have spent a lot of time in the company of piggies. They are cute and curious, and they're very affectionate. They're very loving. They are not just affectionate with their own kind, but also with humans, and with other species. They get on very well with dogs, apparently. And they also sleep nose to nose, just to make sure that their loved ones are close, which is, beyond adorable, really. George Clooney had a pig called Max, who sadly passed away now, but he got to about 18 years, and George Clooney always joked that it was the best relationship that he ever had with Max the pig. He was a pot-bellied pig. Someone's actually finished their pig. Great. Good for you. Full steam ahead. I think pastels can be so, if you're feeling it, you can make some lovely quick drawings. I think people use them in lots of different ways, so good for you. More piggy facts. Okay, so pigs are actually incredibly sporty. They, I was saying they had to run fast. Well, some species of pig can run a 7-minute mile, which is absolutely insane. They're also incredibly good swimmers. So they are, incredibly sporty species. And as someone mentioned on the comments, pigs are incredibly clever. I think they're ranked as the 4th most intelligent animal on the planet, and that's after humans, primates, and cetaceans, which are whales and dolphins. So they are pretty clever, which sort of makes it all the more heartbreaking when we kind of think about the way in which some pigs are treated. So I'm going to just talk a little bit about pig welfare. Of course, it will all be suitable for children, of course, but some of it's not particularly nice. So if you really don't want it to kill your vibe, you're very, very welcome to mute me for a few minutes. It'll only take a few minutes. But I do think it is important that we all are quite, we know as much as we can about the world in which we live in. So pigs are, obviously, as a whole country, as a whole world, we eat a lot of pork. And there are what we call kind of factory farms, I guess, as opposed to, the farm. If you say the word farm, you kind of think about, lovely green fields and, maybe some tractors, scarecrows. But actually, factory farms are a very, very different thing. They can house hundreds of thousands of pigs at any one time, and they're all kept in incredibly cramped conditions. They are fed by, they're fed with the push of a button, so that they don't really have any kind of contact. They definitely don't see the outside world, and as I said, very, very cramped conditions. So much so that some of the pigs actually kind of go a little bit insane, and they end up kind of biting each other's tails and things. So that's why actually, I'm not sure if this is, I'm not sure if it's illegal now to do tail docking, but certainly that is what used to happen. And the pig's tails would used to be chopped off just to prevent that happening. But the reason why the pigs were biting off each other's tails was because they were just they sort of knew they shouldn't have been in that situation, and they were far too cramped and unhappy. And also when the pigs, the female pigs, they are meant to, obviously they are meant to breed quite quickly, and so they are actually sometimes put in these cages where they can't even turn around, they can't even turn their body around, and they are artificially inseminated. And so as soon as they have a litter of pigs and they've all been weaned, they are pregnant again, making more little pigs, which is a really, really tough life, and not really one that the pigs were meant to lead, I don't think. And because these piggies are, there's so many of them, and disease is rife, and they're all kind of, in such close conditions, actually a lot of these pigs are pumped full of antibiotics. And so that's just to kind of, rid them of any disease, but keep them alive, basically, until they end up on somebody's plate, which is really dire. And actually it's really dangerous because because the antibiotics can be found in meat that we eat, humans are actually getting a little bit resistant to antibiotics, which is actually a huge problem, because it's our sort of main drug against a lot of things. So it's a little bit on the tricky side there. But there are things we can do, absolutely. So the main thing we have at our disposal is purchase power. And so we can use the money that we spend to kind of, we want to dictate what kind of product we want to have on our plate. And of course, if you are a meat eater, it's a really good idea just to always get high welfare meat. I know obviously it's that little bit more expensive, and that that is a little bit it can be a little bit of a barrier to some people, which is totally understandable. But what is also a little bit naughty is that the labeling of meat can actually be it's not always as it seems. So sometimes when meat is labelled as, you know, RSPCA assured, or it has the British flag on it, or it has the red tractor on it, you know, those symbols actually don't mean that the animals had a very good life. If you have a look, and again, if I mention farms not factories, they have on their website a really, really useful sort of whole list of all of the labels that are found on meat and what it actually means in terms of welfare standards, because it is really, really difficult. You know, it's obviously it's a lot easier if you go to your local butchers, or if you have a place locally that sells it, you understand where that meat comes from and you are confident about that. But when you're buying from a supermarket and the labeling is quite standard, it is really difficult to know. And so actually this Farms Not Factories, they have on their website a whole list of not just the meat labeling, but also the welfare standards for all of the major supermarkets, and also for all of the major like fast food outlets as well, so things like Subway and places like that, and they actually have a rating system, so you can really see, you know, exactly what kind of meat you're getting. And if you do want any more information, pop over to Farms Not Factories. They have a whole wealth of stuff on there. I really wasn't trying to be preachy at all. I just, you know, this is what we do at the drawing classes as well. We just make sure that all of the facts are available so people can make their own informed choices, and that's hopefully you are okay with that. But that's my little piece anyway. That's what I wanted to say. Oh, Alex Lund's going vegan. Strangely, we do actually have a lot of newborn vegetarians after we've done one of these miniature piglet drawing classes. Cool. Okay, so I'm going to lift the mood right back up now again, and I'm at a point now where I'm sort of kind of enjoying how these colours are sort of coming together. Obviously I can work into them a little bit more depending on whether I want more textural marks, which is, you know, these kind of marks, or whether you want a sort of smoother kind of colour gradient. It's up to you. You can sort of mix between your smudging and your textural marks, but right now I think it's about time to possibly go in and do the little nose and a little bit around the face. And so the face of this little piggy here is mostly black, but we want to make sure we can pick out the features as much as possible. And so oh my god, I'm so messy. Okay, that's a little bit better. So where we've got the nose here, so I picked out a couple of colours, and what I went for is this sort of peachy colour, and then a sort of, actually quite like a sort of, I don't know if it's lilac, it's like quite a pinky purple, and what I was going to do is just sort of, again, in the same way as you were putting the colours in the areas, I just going to do the same thing with the nose, and not make it too big and gaudy or too crazy a nose, but just sort of get a couple of those colours in there. And then because the light is capturing that lovely nose at the top there, make sure you go over with a little bit of white and just go blend that a little bit further up. Yeah. Okay, what might be helpful now is to go back to our charcoal pencil and just pick out a few of the little details around the face. Okay, great. And so you can use your fine charcoal or whatever you've got, It's just sometimes quite nice. Once you've applied that colour, you can just start to mark out those little, so you can see that the little snout sort of bends, and we're just kind of outlining it to give it a little bit more oomph. And then what we can do is start to, yeah, make it look a little bit like it belongs to the face. So we want to put a little bit of like the hairs around here. There we go. And the same with the eye as well. So this piglet has got the most luscious eyelashes. I am not entirely sure. I haven't got a chalk pencil or anything fine enough to really pick that out. So sadly, I might have to miss them out as a bit of an artistic license. But what I'm going to do is just fill in where that eye is. And again, just keeping it really, really small as it is, and leaving that little circle of white there. There we go. And this piggy has got some nice, you know, you can see what I always say about drawing anything with an eye is it's as important to draw everything around the eye as it is the eye itself. So here we've got the eyeball, and that looks good. But then to make it look like it belongs to the face, you want to draw that little sort of the eyebrow here, and maybe like sort of the little area underneath the eye, just to show that it's all part of the same face. Perfect. Okay, we are not far off done now. So what I'm going to do is just pick out with a highlight just around the eye a little bit there. And because I'm very conscious about not running over the hour, what I'm going to do now is just round up a little bit of the last few things that I was going to show you. And so when we're you can obviously spend as long as you like filling in, making sure these tones are lovely and rich and gorgeous, and you can work into it as much as you like. But for now, I'm going to have to just go with this. So what I would do now is go, oh hang on, we haven't done the trotters yet. So back to these quickly, and keep your charcoal pencil, your fine bit of charcoal to hand. And what we're going to do with the charcoal pencil is just go round the rest of the picture and make sure that everything is kind of nicely defined. So we want to make sure that, you know, this piggy has got some lovely like little hairs and a little bit of detail here all around the face, and a little bit here as well. It's just nice to give them a little bit of texture, especially if you've done a very, very smooth piggy. And so a little bit on the bottom here. A white gel pen would be good for the eyelashes, thank you. That's perfect. Thank you for all your tips, guys. Very helpful. Okay. Right. The very last thing I'm going to do is go back to my white and just add some smashing little highlights wherever we are. And just because the white against this lovely mid-tone paper looks amazing, and so you want to just pick out all of those lovely areas of light where the light's hitting the fur. Go just like that, and around the face here as well. Got a nice little bit of fluff around the nose. And then something that I did was to just add just a tiny bit of some kind of like quite unorthodox colours. So some really bright, I've got a really bright orange here, which I just added to just lift some of the colours as well. It just is makes it zing, really nice and punchy. And in my kit here, I've also got these two fluoro colours, which are, what I was going to do is just add a tiniest bit on the nose, just to make that ping out. This is totally optional as well, by the way. it's just something that I found quite exciting. It's just, you know, it really just makes the pastels kind of sing, I think. And, you know, it's your pig. You can make it whatever colour you want. There we go. That's not too bad. So in my original picture, I put a little flower here, so the piglet can be smelling a little flower. But you also might just want to add a little bit of ground for them to be walking on. You could do a few blades of grass up here. Whatever you like, really. But I'm quite happy with that. It was very, very relaxing. I am sold on pastels. Amazing. So, everyone's happy. I am going to just make sure that we don't run over the hour. So I'm going to bring you back to my face. Hello. Oh, and so firstly what I want to say is thank you for sketching along with me. I will post pictures of these up on the Instagram. So if you still need them for reference, they will be always there for you. Also, if you would like to share your piggies with me, please do tag me on Instagram, send them in a message, send them in an email. I would absolutely love to see them. And I'm just very quickly going to tell you what the next classes are. Oh, thanks everyone. Alice loved it. Jules has put a daisy on. That's so great. Next Wednesday, what we're going to be doing is donkeys or horses, but we're going to be focusing on anatomy, and with that one you can draw in whatever you like. We're just going to be focusing a lot on like bone structure, muscle structure, and getting everything in the right place. On the 10th of June, we're going to be drawing greyhounds in grayscale. So for that one, we might have a little look at charcoal, or we may go back to the inks and the wash. And then on the 17th of June, by very popular demand, we're going to be drawing cats. So, but we're going to be drawing them in colour. And I thought what I might do is start by drawing some of the jaguars and pumas and ocelots that I met on my jungle artist residency. All of those facts will work if you want to draw your own domestic cat as well. So thank you so much for drawing along. So lovely to spend the evening with you. Share your piglets with me, and I will see you next week for donkeys. Lots of love. Bye bye.